Today we're going to be talking about a pirate. He has a black beard. Do you know who it is? Correct. The Blackbeard.
Terror at Sea. And we're going to talk about that right now.
Today we will be discussing the fact and fiction about the most notorious pirate, Blackbeard. Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum. Dead men tell no tale. Hoist the sails. Man the cannons. Yeah!
All right, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Crime Force, that was kind of funny. But anyhow, hey guys, welcome. This is Studio 7L.
Yes, it's your girl, Shirak.
And I'm Ed. And that was our Crime Force AI investigation team.
They
are not...
Gonna be
Hold on, I'm not done talking. Go ahead.
Everybody know about the Crime Force.
No, they don't. Well, go ahead.
So today we're going to be talking about Blackbeard. And before we get started, this is for education, entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research. Be kind to everyone, friends, family, strangers.
If you don't know what Crime Force is, just wait and see. But it's all right. I'm just kidding around. We got a lot to get into because Crime Force has provided a long video, and then we'll comment afterwards. It's pretty involved. So yes, we're going to talk about Blackbeard, Terror at Sea. This is probably, I would say, the most known pirate, most famous probably. Captain Morgan may be the other one.
Was
those
notorious.
are the two. So we will check this out. Crime Force is going to be a pretty long video. I think it's about like 14 to 17 minute range. So we'll go through all that with Crime Force, and then we'll come back and give our final thoughts. Here we go.
Blackbeard, whose real name was Edward Teach, or Thatch, was born around 1680 and became one of the most notorious pirates in history. Little is known about his early life, but it is believed he may have started as a sailor on privateer ships during Queen Anne's War, 1701 to 1714. It was part of the larger War of the Spanish Succession in Europe. During this time, he would have engaged in acts of piracy against Spanish vessels on behalf of the British government. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, was indeed a strong and effective leader, employing a unique combination of intimidation, strategic thinking, and democratic practices. Fearsome reputation, Blackbeard cultivated a terrifying image to instill fear in enemies and maintain order among his crew. He would tie lit fuses into his beard, creating a demonic appearance that struck terror into those who encountered him.
I heard he was tall, too.
Strategic cunning, he was known for his tactical acumen and calculated approach to piracy, often relying on psychological warfare to capture ships without a fight. Democratic practices, surprisingly, Blackbeard ran a relatively democratic ship. He allowed crew members to vote on important decisions, implemented checks and balances, and valued skills over background or race. Charismatic leadership, Blackbeard inspired confidence in his men and maintained unparalleled discipline, showcasing extraordinary leadership skills. Diplomatic skills, despite his brutal reputation, Blackbeard possessed the diplomatic acumen to negotiate with high-ranking officials. Crew management, he understood the importance of maintaining crew morale, balancing discipline with camaraderie. When a Blackbeard gained power, wealth, and respect, his behavior changed for the worse. He became more arrogant and selfish. He tortured and intimidated his crew members.
Thanks, Agent Owens. Let's talk about the year 1715 was significant in pirate history due to the wreck of the Spanish treasure fleet off the coast of Florida, known as the 1715 Plate Fleet. This event led to a surge in piracy as treasure hunters and pirates, including Blackbeard, sought to recover the valuable cargo lost in the shipwrecks.
I would be there too.
July 1715, a Spanish treasure fleet consisting of 11 ships was struck by a hurricane off the coast of Florida. The fleet was carrying vast amounts of gold, silver, and other precious goods from the New World to Spain. The wreckage attracted treasure hunters and pirates who sought to recover the valuable cargo. This event marked an upsurge in piracy in the Caribbean and along the American coastlines. Blackbeard, along with other notorious pirates like Henry Jennings and Charles Vane, took advantage of the situation to seize the scattered treasures. Blackbeard, also known as Edward Teach, was active during this time and capitalized on the chaos caused by the hurricane. He captured ships and expanded his fleet.
Great job, Agent Wells. After the war, Teach, also known as Blackbeard, transitioned from privateering to outright piracy under the mentorship of Captain Benjamin Hornigold. By around 1716, Hornigold placed Teach in command of a captured sloop. La Concorde was a 200-ton ship that was originally built by French shipwrights. The ship was owned by René Montaudoin, a member of the most prolific family in the French slave trade. La Concorde completed several voyages from Nantes, France, to Africa, to the Caribbean, and back to France, between 1711 and 1717. On its final voyage, La Concorde was captained by Pierre Dosset and had a crew of French sailors. Soon after, he took control of a frigate that had been renamed La Concorde, which he later renamed Queen Anne's Revenge.
Queen Anne's Revenge.
This ship became his flagship and allowed him to build a formidable fleet and reputation.
That ship
Blackbeard
was a
connected with Stede Bonnet, known as the Gentleman Pirate, in 1717. Bonnet, who had a wealthy background and no prior experience as a pirate, decided to turn to piracy and purchased a ship called the Revenge.
Yeah, well.
Bonnet met Blackbeard in Honduras, and the two pirates decided to join forces. Bonnet was injured after an encounter with a Spanish man of war.
Well.
Although their partnership was somewhat complicated, Blackbeard convinced Bonnet to allow one of his lieutenants to take command of the Revenge, while Bonnet became a guest on Blackbeard's ship. Blackbeard tricked Bonnet and assumed command of the Revenge again with a crew of 400 men and 3 ships. Their relationship was marked by both cooperation and tension, and it eventually soured. Bonnet continued his piratical activities independently after parting ways with Blackbeard.
In the mid-1717 and 1718, Blackbeard captured 16 to 20 ships as his over 400 pirates and fleet for 4 ships under his command.
The more he's the more successful.
He is now the most famous and feared pirate in the world. Blackbeard and his crew decide on an act of piracy show waves through the New World. Blackbeard stated anything going into or coming out of Charlestown Harbor belongs to him. He sailed his fleet of 4 ships and almost 400 pirates to the busy seaport of Charlestown, South Carolina. Any ship that came in or out was immediately captured. They robbed the ships as they appeared the port, and he took hostages. One of the hostages was an important man named Samuel Ragg, and Ragg was a member of the South Carolina Colonial Council. They sent messages stated that if they did not receive their ransom from the governor of South Carolina request, Blackbeard informed the prisoners that his fleet required medical supplies from the colonial government of South Carolina, and that if none were forthcoming, all prisoners would be executed, their heads sent to the governor, and all captured ships burnt. Mr. Mark and 2 pirates were given 2 days to collect the drugs.
A lot of them had STDs.
Blackbeard moved his fleet and the captured ships to within about 5 or 6 leagues from land.
That's why they needed the medicine.
3 days later, a messenger, sent by Marks, returned to the fleet. Marks's boat had capsized and delayed their arrival in Charlestown. Blackbeard granted a reprieve of 2 days, but still the party did not return. He then called a meeting of his fellow sailors and moved 8 ships into the harbor, causing panic within the town. When Marks finally returned to the fleet, he explained what had happened. On his arrival, he had presented the pirates' demands to the governor, and the drugs had been quickly gathered, but the 2 pirates sent to escort him had proved difficult to find. They had been busy drinking with friends and were finally discovered, drunk. Blackbeard aka Teach kept to his side of the bargain and released the captured ships and his prisoners, albeit relieved of their valuables, including the fine clothing some had worn.
Blackbeard was an interesting character. In June 1718, while navigating the waters near Beaufort Inlet, North Carolina, Blackbeard ran the Queen Anne's Revenge aground on a sandbar. This incident occurred during a time when Blackbeard was actively engaging in piracy along the American colony's coast.
This was crazy.
The grounding resulted in significant damage to the ship. A hole was shattered near its hull due to the impact with the sandbar. Blackbeard then disbanded his flotilla and had his men transferred supplies and the treasure onto the smaller Adventure. The crew members started to question Blackbeard. They knew all 400 crew members were not able to fit on the small boat.
Yeah.
Blackbeard made a statement that how dare they question their captain. He would chop them up for lunch. Blackbeard had no plans of sharing his wealth. Where is the loyalty? They became one of the early practitioners of what today we would call corporate downsizing.
Wow.
Blackbeard stranded this man on a sandbar and took off on his small ship. Blackbeard's most notable instance of bribery and corruption was his relationship with Governor Charles Eden of North Carolina. In exchange for a royal pardon and protection from prosecution, Blackbeard would provide Governor Eden with a portion of his goods and his crew members. This arrangement allowed Blackbeard to operate with relative impunity in the coastal waters of North Carolina, and also gave him access to valuable information about the movements of merchant ships. Blackbeard's bribery of Governor Eden was a key factor in his ability to evade capture and continue his pirating activities. Blackbeard also used bribes to evade capture by other authorities. For example, he would often bribe local officials and sailors to provide him with information about the movements of pirate-hunting ships.
He's getting everything.
He would also bribe his way out of difficult situations, such as when he was blockading the port of Charleston, South Carolina. Blackbeard's use of bribes to evade capture was a common tactic, and one that he used effectively throughout his pirating career.
It's a quote. Tell me, what do you think? Even the mightiest battleship must one day sail into its final harbor, its cannons silenced by the tides of times. Blackbeard Last Battle. Maynard found the pirates anchored on the inner side of Ocracoke Island, on the evening of November 21st. He had ascertained their position from ships he had stopped along his journey, but being unfamiliar with the local channels and shoals, he decided to wait until the following morning to make his attack. He stopped all traffic from entering the inlet, preventing any warning of his presence, and posted a lookout on both sloops to ensure that Blackbeard could not escape to sea. On the other side of the island, Blackbeard was busy entertaining guests and had not set a lookout. With Israel hands ashore in Bath with about 24 of Adventure's sailors, he also had a much reduced crew. Johnson reported Blackbeard had no more than 25 men on board, and that he gave out to all the vessels that he spoke with that he had 40.
You wish he had those
13
guys
white
back.
and 6 African Americans was the number later reported by Brand to the Admiralty. Blackbeard bid him send his boat on board, that he might see who he was, but Mr. Maynard replied, he cannot spare his boat, but he will come aboard of him as soon as he can, with his sloop. Upon this, Blackbeard took a glass of liquor and drank to him with these words, damnation seize his soul if I give him quarters, or take any from you. Mr. Maynard told him that he expected no quarters from him, nor should he give him anything.
Wow. Yep.
Not bad, Agent Wells. Reported exchange of views between Blackbeard and Maynard. At daybreak, preceded by a small boat taking soundings, Maynard's 2 sloops entered the channel.
Yeah, 2
The
boats.
small craft was quickly spotted by Adventure and fired at as soon as it was within range of her guns. While the boat made a quick retreat to the Jane, Blackbeard cut the Adventure's anchor cable. His crew hoisted the sails and the Adventure maneuvered to point her starboard guns toward Maynard's sloops, which were slowly closing the gap. Hyde moved Ranger to the port side of Jane and the Union flag was unfurled on each ship. Adventure then turned toward the beach of Ocracoke Island, heading for a narrow channel. What happened next is uncertain. Johnson claimed that there was an exchange of small arms fire following which Adventure ran aground on a sandbar, and Maynard anchored and then lightened his ship to pass over the obstacle. Another version claimed that Jane and Ranger ran aground, although Maynard made no mention of this in his log. The Adventure eventually turned her guns on the 2 ships and fired. The broadside was devastating. In an instant, Maynard had lost as much as a third of his forces.
Wow.
About 20
That's a
on Jane
lot.
were
That's a
either
lot,
wounded or
yeah.
killed, and 9 on Ranger. Hyde was dead and his second and third officers either dead or seriously injured. His sloop was so badly damaged that it played no further role in the attack. Contemporary accounts of what happened next are confused, but small arms fire from Jane may have cut Adventure's jib sheet, causing her to lose control and run onto the sandbar. In the aftermath of Blackbeard's overwhelming attack, Jane and Ranger may also have been grounded. The battle would have become a race to see who could float their ship first.
Capture of the pirate, Blackbeard, 1718, Jean Leon Jerome Ferris, painted in 1920. Maynard had kept many of his men below deck, and in anticipation of being boarded told them to prepare for close fighting. Blackbeard watched as the gap between the vessels closed, and ordered his men to be ready. The two vessels contacted one another as the Adventure's grappling hooks hit their target, and several grenades, made from powder and shot-filled bottles and ignited by fuses, broke across the sloop's deck. As the smoke cleared, Blackbeard led his men aboard, buoyant at the sight of Maynard's apparently empty ship, his men firing at the small group of men with Maynard at the stern. The rest of Maynard's men then burst from the hold, shouting and firing. The plan to surprise Blackbeard and his crew worked. The pirates were apparently taken aback at the assault. Blackbeard rallied his men, and the two groups fought across the deck, which was already slick with blood from those killed or injured by Blackbeard's broadside. Maynard and Blackbeard fired their flintlocks at each other. Maynard managed to hit Blackbeard, while Blackbeard missed. Both then threw their flintlocks away and drew their cutlasses. Blackbeard broke Maynard's cutlass at the hilt. Against superior training and a slight advantage in numbers, the pirates were pushed back toward the bow, allowing the Jane's crew to surround Maynard and Teach aka Blackbeard, who was by then completely isolated. Blackbeard pressed onward and was about to deliver a killing blow, but was slashed across the neck by one of Maynard's men. This redirected Blackbeard's cutlass to strike Maynard's knuckles instead of killing him.
Wow.
Badly wounded, Blackbeard was then attacked and killed by several more of Maynard's crew. The remaining pirates quickly surrendered. Those left on the Adventure were captured by the Ranger's crew, including one who planned to set fire to the powder room and blow up the ship. Varying accounts exist of the battle's list of casualties. Maynard reported that 8 of his men and 12 pirates were killed. Brand reported that 10 pirates and 11 of Maynard's men were killed. Spotswood claimed 10 pirates and 10 of the king's men dead.
Unfortunately, this is a sad ending. Maynard later examined Blackhead's body, noting that it had been shot 5 times and cut about 20. He also found several items of correspondence, including a letter from Tobias Knight. Blackhead's corpse was thrown into the inlet and his head was suspended from the bowsprit of Maynard's sloop so that the reward could be collected. On their return to Virginia, Blackbeard's head was placed on a pole at the entrance to the Chesapeake Bay as a warning to other pirates and a greeting to other ships, and it stood there for several years.
Oh, that was a good long one. Thank you, Crime Force. Thank you so much. I got a couple of things to say, but you can go first if you want today.
Yeah, so that was like a tactic, right? Like at the end, when you actually
cut the head off so you can show
the head, so you can say, proof. Hey, if you mess with me, this can happen to you. It happened a lot back then. And I had a question as well too, because Captain Morgan, I know we did also with Blackbeard. Is this like almost the same time frame? Did they ever like?
What was the Blackbeard again? Do you remember?
It was 17.
No, it's after. Blackbeard's after. Captain Morgan was in the mid to late 1600s. Okay. So Blackbeard is after.
Okay.
What's interesting, there's a couple things. There was this old tale that when they threw Blackbeard's body in the water, it swam around the boat a few times. Yeah, you know how they make up stories. That was one story. And then I told you this. I told you this offline. I'll tell it to the folks. So on one hand, Blackbeard had like the first democracy in terms of on a ship, kind of. I mean, obviously he was very imposing, and at the end of the day, I'm sure he ran everything, but he somehow had some democracy. So he'd have African Americans, black people on his ships and treat them equal.
Mm-hmm.
However,
At the end,
when it was profitable for Blackbeard, so that sounds really cool. Blackbeard, everybody's in slavery, he's treating black people equal. This is great, it's amazing. Until he runs in a situation where, like, what can he give me? Well, I can give you all these black slaves for some money, and he trades all his he trades them all in and gets all kinds of money. So he wasn't that great of a guy in terms of that. But there were pirates that accepted any nationality. Pirates are pirates, whether you're and then maybe down the road there's actually female pirates. Maybe that's for another show for maybe next year or another time. But there were some pirates that everybody was equal, but unfortunately Blackbeard went backwards.
Yeah.
On that
so that's one thing I was about to say too. He did treat everyone equal. Like, he didn't care if he was black or white. But at the end, he's like, "Oh, if you're gonna make me some money, Like, and also look, he had 400 crew members, and he's like, "Oh, y'all all can't go on this."
Green was king. Mm-hmm. That was his color. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. So I just wanted to definitely emphasize on that.
You hit that one on the head. So that was an interesting one. A lot of interesting stuff there. And we wanted to do a couple pirates for like the summer season because, hey, it's warmer out, water, what the heck. Yeah. So, and it deals with true crime.
That was our theme.
Robbing, killing. Yep. Yeah. That was the theme. Well, I hope you guys come on back and watch again. That's what really matters to us. If you subscribe, that'd be even better, just because we know you guys are watching. We have all kinds of shows, scary, historical, as you know, some newer stuff, older stuff.
Back to 1700, all the way up to 2025.
All that we got memberships. One thing we didn't mention in a lot of our shows. We haven't done live shows in a while, only because we've been going to this format of doing shows. But maybe at some point when we get more active members or people want them, we'll do them again. Yeah. But anyhow, we really appreciate you guys being here. And I want to leave any last comments. You can save your tagline for the end, but do you have anything else on this topic?
So thanks for watching. If you have anything else that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments if you can. Studio 70.
Until next time.